I started recording, please. I started recording, please. So, reminder first couple of things about the test is just solving equations. So, like x plus 16 equals 20. You always do the opposite operation minus 16, minus 16, x equals 4. Remember, the opposite of addition is subtraction, and vice versa. The opposite of multiplication is division, vice versa. The test is Wednesday. No, it's an error on the plus board. I know what you're talking about. There's an error with the Google or what is it, Buzz. It says it's today, but it's Wednesday. It got confused with something else.
I was practicing like the butterfly thing yesterday.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now you're more prepared. So 1 steps are easy. 2 steps, just remember, with 2 steps, you have to do it in opposite order. So normally, if you were to solve this arithmetic PEMDAS wise, you would do multiplication first, then addition. But because we're doing reverse operations, you got to do it in reverse order. So I'm going to subtract first. So then I get 2x equals 4, then divided by 2, x equals 2. So remember, reverse order, not only in operation, but in PEMDAS. So there's 1 step, 2 step. Sometimes you need to combine like terms before you do anything. So in this case, combine like terms first. So 5x plus 10 equals 100. Minus 10 minus 10. 5x equals 90. Divided by 5, divided by 5. X equals 18. Okay? Sometimes we have to not only combine like terms, we have to distribute. So 2x plus 4 equals 48. Distribute the 3. 6x plus 12 equals 48. Minus 12 on both sides. 6x equals 36 divided by 6 on both sides. X equals 6. Yeah. Sometimes we have to distribute. Sometimes, though, we got a weird fraction. 2 over 3, 2x plus 3 equals 48. When we're dealing with a weird fraction, it makes it harder. But don't worry. The best thing you could always do, the highest suggestion I make, is to get rid of the bottom. The best way to get rid of the bottom or the denominator is timesing by the denominator. So I'm going to times this side by 3 and times this side by 3. Cross this out. And what I'm left with is 2. 2x plus 3 equals, thank you. Sure. Equals 144. Yeah, 144. Then distribute. 4x equal plus 6 equals 144. Minus 6 on both sides. 4x equals 138. This is going to be divided by 4, divided by 4. On your tests, I try to avoid fractions. If this happens to be fractions, because I just made it up. In this case, this is 34.5. Yes, 34.5. All right. Sometimes we have variables on both sides. So 3x plus 6 equals 4x minus 5. My suggestion is always to move the smaller variable. In this scenario, 3 is smaller than 4. So I'm moving 3 on both sides. So 6 equals x minus 5. Then I'm adding 5 on both sides. 11 equals x. When you move the smallest x, it helps avoid negatives on your x. Some people get tripped up by that, so that's why I suggest that. If you have something like this, 10 minus 5x equals 6 7x, no, 3x minus 6. In this scenario, you're moving the smallest x. Reminder, this is considered a negative 5x. So that means this is the smaller x in this scenario. So I'm going to plus 5x over here, plus 5x over here. So then that's going to be 10 equals 8x minus 6, plus 6 plus 6. 16 equals 8x, divided by 8, x equals 2. So a reminder, always move the smallest x, keep an eye out for negatives. Now sometimes there is no smaller x. So for example, 3x plus 2 equals 3x plus 1. Let's say I do this and distribute like normal. So I distribute. So I get 3x plus 2 equals 3x plus 3. Now I want to move the smallest x. Now the smallest x between these don't exist. So I move both, negative 3x, negative 3x. This crosses out. In this scenario, I get 2 equals 3. Keep in mind, 2 can never equal 3. There's no number that can make that happen. So because you got a false statement, 2 is never equal 3, this is no solution. Let's say in another situation, 2x plus 5 equals 2x plus 5. You subtract the 2x on both sides. By the way, you could notice something's up when the x's are the same level or that the exact same question are on both sides. So 5 equals 5. In this case, that's always true. That can never not happen. So how many solutions you have? You have an infinite amount of solutions. Another term you might hear if you watch any other thing might be all real solutions, okay? All real numbers are the solutions. Every real number works. All right, proportions. Again, proportions, I always suggest doing cross multiplication. So x over 11 equals 40 over 55. Now, some of you are smart enough to say, wait a second, 11 times 5 gives you 55, which means if I divide it by 5, I will get to the answer here, which is 8. You are free to allow to do that. You can do that. My suggestion is always the butterfly method, and make sure you bring a calculator because these numbers get big when you do this. But my suggestion is always butterfly method because sometimes they don't go in cleanly or sometimes they're not obvious. So 55x equals 440 divided by 55 on both sides. 55 goes into 440 8 times. So x equals 8. Notice either way you do it, you will get the right answer. That is okay. Again, I suggest doing the cross multiplication. Now, especially cross multiplication is useful when you have full-on equations or expressions in it. So let's do 9 minus y over 44 equals 5 over 22. So I'm going to cross multiply. 5 times 44 is 220. But 22 times 5, 9 minus y. I write it like this, 22 times 9 minus y. Then I distribute the 9, or the 22, I'm sorry. So I get 22, or 220, equals 198 minus 22y. Subtract 198 on both sides. 22 equals negative 22y. Reminder, since it's negative 22y, I have to divide by negative 22. So in this case, y will equal negative 1. So again, cross multiplication is useful because it works even with their expression. You could also have multiple variables in yours. 2 over x equals 14 over x plus 30. I'm going to cross multiply here. So 2 and x over 30 is going to write 2x plus 30. 14 times x is 14x. From there is just an algebra problem with two variables on both sides. 2x plus 60 equals 14x minus 2x minus 2x. 60 equals 12x divided by 12 divided by 12. X equals 5. One of the problems I will give you is you have to write out the equation. So for example, if I say something along the lines of Bill let's use a simple one. Bill eats 10 apples and now he has 25 apples left. Write the equation using A for the starting amount of apples and solve. So for this situation, you need to write the equation and you need to solve. You will get points for writing the equation and you'll get points for solving. So the equation is Bill eat 10 apples, now he has 25 left. So Bill had some amount of apples. Let's start A for apples. He ate 10 of them, so 10 disappeared. And now what's left over is 25. So this is the equation, okay? The equation will give you points. You need to set up the equation according to the whatever narrative I give you. Then you solve this. Most of you can mental math this, and that's okay. But plus 10 on both sides, plus 10 on both sides. He must have started out with 35 apples. Reminder, on the word problems, I will put a section for the equation and the answer. Make sure you know how to make the equation. There's also ratio-based ones like, or proportion-based ones like, a map has the scale of 2 inches for every 5 miles. How far on a map is 2 cities if they are physically (22 miles away? Okay. For this one, make sure when you set up the proportion, it's the same on top and bottom. So if my first ratio is 2 inches for every 5 miles, I have to make sure the other ratio matches the same thing. So inches on top, miles on bottom. Since they gave me miles, that means what I know is the 22 miles on bottom. What I don't know is going to be my x, which is in inches, okay? Which then I could just cross multiply. So 22 times 2 equals 5 times x. 44 equals 5x. X equals 8.8 inches. Now in this scenario, you ask yourself, is it okay to be a decimal? You could be a part of an inch, you could be half an inch. So because of that, inches are okay to be a decimal. If I gave you a ratio like 3 people can build 5 feet of wall every hour. How many people you need if you want to build at least 12 feet of wall every hour. Per hour, I should say. Okay, so for this ratio, what you're going to do is, first let's set up 3 people for every 5 feet of wall. So 3 people for every 5 feet of wall. That's going to be equal to, how many people do you need if you want 12 feet of wall? So I'm going to put 12 feet on the bottom, because if I put feet on the bottom of the first one, it'll be on the bottom of the second one. Means some mystery number x. Again, we cross multiply. 3 times 12 equals 5 times x. 36 equals 5x. X equals 7.2. My issue, though, is these are people, right? I cannot have 0.2 of a person. So I have to round it up, because since the minimum is 12 feet, even though 13 people or 8 people will make it 15 feet per wall per minute, I can't have less than I can't have a decimal of a person. 7 people will not make enough. So in this case, my final answer should be 8 people. Remember, you're rounding up in this case because I need to make at least 12. If I want it as most 12, I would round down. I don't want any faster than 12. I would round down to 7 people. Okay. All right, last thing is the weird thing here, which is when we rewrite the equation. So let's say 3y plus 5x equals 21. So in this scenario, I might say solve for y. Now what's weird about this is you got to get y by itself, because you can't actually solve what number is y is because you have an x in the way. So what we do is we move everything away just like a normal equation, just we have to deal with the 5x as a number. So 5x got to get moved away because it's from y. So 5x. So we're going to rewrite this as 3y equals negative 5x plus 21. If you write 21 minus 5x, that's perfectly fine. Then I'm forced to get the 3 away, so I divide by 3. When you divide or multiply to anything, you must distribute. So this gets divided by 3, this gets divided by 3. So y equals negative 5 over 3 is negative 5 over 3. We just leave it as a fraction. Plus 21 divided by 3, 7. So make sure you also know how to rewrite equations. So with that in mind, this is the review for the test. Hopefully this helps.